Okay, today I want to talk about layer styles. Layer styles are things like drop shadow, bevel and emboss, outer glow, qualities like that you can use for different things, but is usually applied to type. And since we just talked about type, um, it's a good thing for us to discuss right now. Some of these things, like drop shadows, etc., could be done using effects. Okay. Now we haven't really gotten into effects yet. They're a whole huge thing. So we'll just use layer styles right now. They're great anyway, and I use them all the time. So let's get a composition going. Composition, new composition. And I know in the beginning I said, let's use NTSC D1 square pixel, but I'm kind of liking the aspect ratio of the widescreen a little bit better. So NTSC D1 widescreen square pixel, you can use whichever one of these you like. Okay, it's about the right resolution. And this is probably black for yours. And I'm going to make my duration 5 seconds. So remember, this is hours, minutes, seconds, frames. So 0500 there. And let's put this to fit. Okay, so let's make a piece of type. So take the type tool, click once, and just put in any piece of type. I'm not going to keep this, it's just to experiment with. All right, and make sure it's like nice and big so you can see what you're doing. All right. And actually, we're going to be doing the drop shadow, so having the background black will make it so we can't see that. So let's go to change our background color. So composition, comp settings, and I'm just going to change my background color to something kind of blue-gray like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So our type layer is active, right? So let's go layer styles, right? And we'll look at some of these I'm going to kind of skim over. They have a lot of settings and parameters, okay? But the most important one is this top one, drop shadow, okay? Probably the most important. So there you see a nice drop shadow appeared on your type, right? Just scrolling with the mouse wheel to zoom in. And you will see that down below here, this layer styles thing appeared, right? And there's an eyeball next to it, so I can turn that drop shadow off or on if I want to. And the drop shadow has a bunch of parameters, all of which, as you can see, are animatable. Okay, so that's good. So let's say the distance of the drop shadow is how far it is away. The opacity, if I want a very subtle drop shadow, I can turn it down, or I can make it 100%. I can change it to some other color. Let's say I want to make it red. And let's go to normal. All right. Now, I've noticed that the blending mode is not functioning for some reason, at least in my copy of this version of Photoshop. Put it back to black. Oh, turn the opacity down. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's when I change this blending mode, I don't know if this is a bug or something I'm unaware of, because it's not something I do every day, but if I change the blending mode, right, it's another thing that's found in Photoshop and Illustrator and all kinds of Adobe products. And it's this whole long list of words that are the names of algorithms that describe how the color you currently have, the drop shadow, mixes with what's behind it. All right. So this group that starts with darken should only show result if your drop shadow is darker than the background, right? And I believe it was on multiply to start with. And lighten will only show it if it's lighter. So multiply, okay, this red color and this background don't have absolute, both have some lightness and some darkness. So I should see mixing, a little bit of mixing. It shouldn't be a pure red. And I should have to change it to normal to make a pure red. But It's showing it on normal already. So this blending mode is not functioning at the moment. So I'm sorry I started talking about it. I'm just going to leave it on multiply. All right. I went through this before and I spent some time and I actually didn't figure out. I tried restarting After Effects and stuff like that. So it's a minor thing and you can just ignore it. But so I can change the color. I'm going to put this drop shadow back to black. Turn the opacity down a little bit. All right, so that's a drop shadow, and you can use, that's an important one because you can use it just to make your type kind of pop out of the background a little bit. And so we can put a bunch of layer styles on this thing. So but I have to go back up here, okay, layer styles, and let's look at the next most important one, color overlay. All right, now if you ignore the what this does is it lets you easily animate the color of the type. Okay. For whatever reason, if you open up your text, just ignoring the layer styles that we just made, if you look in transform, well, that's basically our trap stuff. And if you look at text, there's no way to animate the color, right? The color is over here in the character palette, but there's nothing with keyframing options. Right? But color overlay and layer styles you can easily animate. So let's open this up, and you can see the color is red. So there's a couple ways I could change this color. Now my type is white underneath the layer style, right? So if I just animate the opacity, and I'll animate backwards here because I want to finish with the red. So turn on keyframing, go to the beginning, and turn down the opacity of my layer style, okay? Or let me turn off keyframing, which will delete the frames, and let's try the color mode. So if I just turn on keyframing for this and go to another point in time and put this back to white, it's going to basically create the same effect. So you can easily animate colors. It's an important thing to be able to do. I think this is the simplest way to do it. You could also, like without the layer styles, you could go up to animate and fill color. That's an option, right? But then you got to deal with those range animators on either end and the start and end position, all that kind of stuff, which is, you can do that too, but this is simpler, I think. You could also take if the type is static, meaning it's not moving, you could put one piece of type on top of the other one that's a different color and just animate its opacity. There's different ways you can do things, but this is definitely the easiest. All right, let's look another, let's see what else we have in here. Oops. So if it's grayed out, like see how mine is, that means I just clicked off my type layer. Layer styles. Inner shadow is like the drop shadow is though the type is above the page, casting a shadow down, and the inner shadow is as though the type is below the page and it's kind of carved out of it. Outer glow, okay, that just makes a nice, let's see, so you got to make sure you're on the right one here to see the parameters. I'm not going to go through every setting here. You can play with these and just see what they do. But there's outer glow. It doesn't look very good with drop shadow, so I'm just going to hide the eyeball on that. Inner glow is a glow inside the type, not so useful. Bevel and emboss is really good though. Okay, so let's open that up. All right, so that makes the type look, beveled, like the words on the license plate kind of popped out. And let's see if I adjust the size of it. Okay, see that's how big the bevel is. And if you turn up too far, it just fuzzes out into nonsense. So you got to have it sized correctly. And I can, instead of smooth, I can have it chisel hard. So I have a nice hard edge bevel that looks pretty slick. So you can see there's lots of parameters to play with here. Inner bevel means the effect occurs inside the type. Outer bevel, there it is. See, the type is unaffected and the bevel's outside. Emboss is a combination of inner and outer bevel. It looks nice. And then pillow emboss dents in on the edges. And stroke emboss won't work at the moment because it only works if you have a stroke layer style applied. I'm just going to leave this on an inner bevel. Let's just, what else did we forget here? Satin is just kind of like a modeled gradient that meanders over the surface of the type. And if you do it, if you use the right colors and stuff, it can make the type look satiny, particularly if you have a soft emboss on it. Color overlay we looked at. Gradient overlay is the same thing with only with a gradient on the type. And stroke just puts a stroke around the text. Okay. And let's see, so that's maybe a little, maybe I'll make that down to 2 points. Try black or something. Okay, so you can do lots of nice stuff with your type and gives you all these animated parameters. So layer styles are real good. Okay. And like I said, if you use Photoshop already, you probably know these because these are kind of a core Photoshop thing. Okay, so that's layer styles. What I want you guys to do for next week, your assignment, is to do a creative project where you guys get to kind of like do your own thing without being, you know, remote controlled by me quite so much. So it's create a short animation of a short message. Okay, let me just show you one I did quickly. Let's see, open recent. Okay, so let me play this. Only you can prevent forest fires. Okay, so it's so we're working with typography, right? And trying to make nicely designed type that's animated. Okay, and it should say something like only you can prevent forest fires, or I mean not that, but you know, you can teach a man to fish, but you can't teach a fish to man, or you know, whatever. I love kitties. Just something that makes sense. All right, so you want to have animated type, right? So these are the rules, right? It has to include animated text and design the type, right? Don't be the typographer. Make it. I mean, this isn't the greatest thing, but it's clearly a block of designed type. So it has to have a coherent message. It can be serious or unserious, whatever. Coherent message, at least 2 JPEGs included in or still images. We haven't really looked at places to find footage and stuff like that, so we can just work with still images. All right, so animated type, a coherent message, and at least 2 pictures. Okay, you can just find them on the internet and download them and import file, right? So it's easy to do that. Let's break down how I did this one a little bit, and there's some stuff like you might be wondering, how did I do those flames on there, things like that. All right, so if I go Control A, right, that selects all my layers. And if I do U, right, it opens up every keyframe on the whole thing. If I do UU, okay, it opens every keyframe, every value or parameter that's keyframed, and every parameter that's been changed away from its default. Okay, usually you just want U to close them all. Okay, so just Control A to select all your layers, U to close them, and U to open them. All right, so you can see there's quite a lot of stuff animated here. Just going to click on the background to deselect. So here's a place where I would recommend animating backwards, right? Because it's most likely you're going to, I mean, you can have your type doing whatever you want it to do. You can have it all animate off at the end. But like I decided I wanted to finish with this block of text. So I got it all where I positioned and sized and did the fonts and everything where I wanted it. And then on each value, I would set the keyframe here and then go back here, like for example, this only U. Where does it stop moving? Right around, okay, right there, right around there. And then, so I turned on keyframing here, went to the beginning and moved it off. So it's animating backwards. I find personally, I animate backwards more often than I animate forwards because I usually know where I want it to end, right? I mean, the finished thing, where it's animating in, usually animate backwards. Okay, whatever. So this piece of the only U just comes down. The can prevent just is changing it, so it's becoming opaque, right? This is all TRAPS, right? Just basic transforms. That black bar is scaling in and becoming opaque. This piece of type comes up and I put a little bounce in there for fun. And the color's changing. I probably use layer styles, okay? And then this bar comes up where it's like 3 and they all merge into 1. I just put 1 on there, right? And then here they are right here, I think. I just put 1 on there and then I selected the 2 keyframes and moved them earlier in time a little bit. So they would come at a, slightly separate in time and then all end up in the same place, just for a fun effect, So, and then there's 2 pictures, right? Just a picture of this green forest, and I'm just scaling it, right? So it's zooming in slightly, just so it's not a static picture. It's moving in, right? And then the same thing with the one, and then I just changed the opacity of this picture of the trees in flame, and they're zooming in also. This would be better with sound, I'm sure, with sound effects or something. And the thing that you don't, like I said, you probably don't recognize is like these flames, how to get that. Well, let's see. So this is a piece of footage, okay? It's showing this little, you probably won't see this little cone looking thing. That's just like, that's actually kind of odd that that's showing up there, but that's just the video player. Actually, I forget the name of it at the moment, but it's the default video player that I have installed. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, this thing here, this column, right? Oh, by the way, down on the bottom left, I have these 2 both turned on. Okay, so this column is the solo, the little dot. Like anything, we can turn the eyeballs off and on to hide a layer, right? But the little dot hides all the other layers. So we can see that it's just a piece of footage, okay? Now, if I change it to normal, there you can see it, right? The blending mode is normal. Here's a place where the blending mode is working fine. I guess it's not in the layer. Well, yeah, this is more important here, but in the layer styles, the blending mode is being weird, all right? So to find this footage, I just looked online. I just was searching for free fire or free flame footage or something like that. The trouble is when you're doing a search and you use the words free, a lot of times it finds for you royalty free. And royalty free is not the same as free, right? That's usually a stock agency that's going to charge you for it. We'll say royalty free. So I don't actually remember, but I probably put when you're doing a Google search, if you put a minus and then some word, it will only look for web pages that don't have that word. So I probably put minus royalty and then free flame. But anyway, I looked around and eventually I found a website that had footage, flame footage, right? And I downloaded it into my job folder. So when you work in After Effects, you always want to have all your assets and the After Effects file all in the same folder. So, so if you transport that folder somewhere, you move the whole thing together. Because losing your assets, if I put this in After Effects and move that fire to somewhere else, After Effects is going to lose it, right? So you want to keep everything together. Anyway, it came in like this, right? And I just changed the blending mode to it would need to be one of these in this. The one that has the word lighten in it will make the flame. It will make that layer only show if it's lighter than the background, right? So if I make it lighten, there it is. Okay, I have my flame picture, plus I have flames over it. Okay, this isn't something you have to do. Okay, just to be clear, I'm just kind of showing you. This is something that we haven't really talked about, so I'm just showing it to you. But I actually used, instead of lighten, I use screen. I think I like that effect a little bit better. It's just a subtle difference. I could have gone to, I don't know, color dodge, and that does kind of a weird thing that's sort of interesting, but I think it's distracting. I think I just like screen the best. All right, so that's just works pretty good. And then I animated all the type into white and with the black graphics at the end. Okay, so that's your assignment. A short message. This is 5 seconds long. 5 seconds is plenty. No longer than 10 seconds. Probably no shorter than 5. I think that's good. Should have some kind of coherent message, animated type, and at least 2 pictures. Okay, that are somehow doing something. All right.